So before we start today's video and we jump into the juice and we jump into the what you guys see in the title, the $100,000 trade that I finally went ahead and crossed, I want to run a clip from a Zoom call that I had with my group yesterday talking about the bull case, talking about what I believe could be a very large, long opportunity post CPI off of the key $5,400 level on the S&P 500 futures. This was a Zoom call that built my confidence, that built my idea for today. And I want to make it very clear that this analysis that I was building from yesterday, from Monday, even over the weekend, you guys have seen me talk about this 5,400 level on the S&P. This type of analysis and game plan is the required confidence that it takes to stay in a trade and to take a trade like the one I did today to make the money that I did. This is not a trade that just came out of the blue that I didn't have full confidence in. This is something that I have been open and talking about and building. This is the type of confidence it requires. So let's go ahead and run that Zoom recording, and after that, we will jump into the charts and break down today's trade. Finally, the $100,000 trade, and of course, come to the morning live stream because you know what we're going to be doing on that live stream tomorrow. So just intrigued of whether, right, this here, this here, this here, and this here is a next long opportunity on this market, right? That's really the next interest I have. Now, there's the reason I'm interested in looking at it now is because tomorrow is really going to decide. It's really tomorrow CPI, which I think will give us an idea of what happens here. For us to break down, we would need to break under 5,400, right? And start to really fail below that. And that would be a sign of a lot, I think, major downside to come. For now, I am intrigued by some kind of risk after this pullback into 5,400. I think there's an interest, right, of whether that's an opportunity here. If I go to the 30-minute chart, actually, let me go 1 hour chart, and I look at sort of what's been going on here. Zoom out. So we can see right here, right? Here's your 1 hour chart. You have the 5,400, you get the 5,400, you got this little 5,400 reclaim, which caused that upside, 5,400 break, which caused major downside. And this time, right, we can see we came down to 54, defended it very aggressively, and over the last few days have held, held higher. And so if we look at this right here, and let's now use our levels that we know are been very valid. 5,400, right? 100 SMA, interesting, right? Sort of an interesting last few days of, higher lows. Now it's really going to come down to tomorrow, of course, and come down to this zone that we're sort of trading in at the moment, 54.92, 55.10. That is going to be the big spot here. Now, the reason I'm interested in whether this is a, do I start to expose myself to some longs in this area? That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in this trade sort of right here, right? Is this the next trade right here? That's sort of my interest. I definitely have a devil on my shoulder behind that idea. I will never shy away from what a 100 SMA being an interesting long opportunity on the market. All right, guys, so that Zoom call that you guys just saw was something that I do from time to time within the group. We sort of build those ideas, build those larger term ideas when I think it is necessary, right? When there is a potential large setup and large move approaching around key economic data like CPI, which was today, and around major levels. And so you saw in that call, and we're going to dive deeper, of course, in some real-time analysis today, but you saw we were around that $5,400 level on the S&P, which is not just some type of short-term level. This is the daily chart. This goes back for the last year. This is a major spot. This is a key influential and key pivot point on the markets. And when we come around those levels, we need to lock in, right? We need to lock in. We need to understand what could occur here because this is when that money can be made, right? And so I was so focused on what we're going to see off that 54, and I started to get the feel that there was opportunity back to the upside. Now, here's a few reasons why. Number one, that 5400 we know is a big move. Big level, right? So we're coming back down into demand. We should expect something of a bounce off that level, right? Just technicals, knowing what technicals are, knowing how they respond, that 5400 definitely should be a level that buyers could show up. And if there is a sign of that, we want to be a participant. The other thing that really got me interested in this trade was the semiconductors. The semiconductors, the SMH ETF, which is another trade that I have been in with the group and a swing trade that I'm still holding, the SMH was at the 200 SMA and a major demand as well. This is alongside the most important stock pretty much on the market, which was NVIDIA, that was also holding a key demand around 101, 104. So there was a lot of signs out there, at least for me, that if there was a sign of strength, any type of spark of strength, that there could be some major squeezes to the upside. The last thing that really got me intrigued by this setup is the potential for a short squeeze. The move that we saw into this 5400 level on the S&P 500 futures, we had a slow but consistent sort of downtrend on the market. We had some big moves lower. We had some aggressive moves lower, but we started to sort of see that 5400 and that 100 SMA stepping up. Right? We started to see the selling pressure slow down. We started to see some demand at that 5400, at that 100 SMA on the ES, the 200 SMA on the NASDAQ, and the 450 level on the QQQ, right? These were all major demands that selling was starting to slow down into, and any sign of a reversal, those shorts that have been shorting into this level will run for the fence, right? They'll run for the door because they know, hey, I've taken my short. I probably should start exiting. We're at these key demands. This is a good time for the market to have a little bounce. Let me start getting rid of these short positions. And if that starts to happen, that starts to fuel that squeeze back to the upside. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that. So the 5400 technicals, the technical levels, definitely lined up. That SMH at key demand was something that sort of weighed into my decision. And finally, the potential of the type of move, which would be a short squeeze, was what really got me interested in taking some risk on this trade. So today, guys, all of those things, that analysis that I did really did come true. I put $20,000 of risk in SPX, made about a 500% return, made about $100,000 on this trade, and I'm still holding some next week SPX, which actually puts me up over $198,000 today alone. So, man, it is a monumental day for me here. You guys have seen me document every single step of my journey, and I know this because I get messages from you guys saying, I remember when you made $100 a day. I remember when you made $2,000 a day. I remember your first $10,000 day, and I remember that myself. And today is my first six-figure day, and I hope that this type of information that I continue to share and these videos that I continue to make are influential and are inspirational to you guys. I truly mean that, because trust me, this is crazy for me, but I love to share it, and I hope that you guys can feel the genuine type of vibe that I make from these videos. These are not meant to be anything more than just genuine videos, sharing and hopefully inspiring you. So I hope you enjoy this one. Let's go ahead and jump into the charts, jump into the computer, break down everything, and let's go ahead and enjoy the rest of our night. All right, guys, so here we are on the S&P 500 futures, and this is the analysis that we did yesterday, that we've been doing, that I posted on X. You guys can see it up on the screen. The $5,400 level, this is the previous highs, these previous lows, and again, you can see the market responding to that level. Over the last 4 trading days, we have seen the market trade lower into this 5,400 level, which is not any type of a joke level. This is a daily chart, 5,400, that dates back from March of this year, previous major rejections on the market that turned into support, and that turned into support again. The other thing that was very interesting to me here was that it was coming back down into the 100 daily SMA, which is the same thing that the S&P 500 pushed higher off of back in April, right? You can see the 100 SMA creating upside after a pullback to the 100 and a bounce off of it. You can see this time around a pullback to that 100 SMA and a very nice bounce off that level, creating that upside. Very similar to what we got back here, that 100 SMA creating another confluence off that $5,400 level. Now, I don't usually use Fibonacci retracements, but I will say that this time around, this may have actually added into my confidence. And if we do pull a fib from this swing low to this swing high, right, you can see right here, this swing low, I'm going to mark it with yellow, that swing low to this swing high, the retracement that we got over the last 4 trading days was exactly on the dot 50%. We had an exact 50% retracement right here at the 5,400 level, at the 100 SMA, and this type of analysis that I was starting to build really got me interested in whether there was a very aggressive long that I could set up off this level. This analysis is what made me the money today, right? Clear cut, that's it. You know, if we want to end the video right here, that's it. But I'm obviously going to get into more detail. But this right here, guys, is what made me the money, right? It is the realization of the longer term analysis, right? Not being tunnel visioned and being able to zoom out, knowing that we were coming down into 5,400, knowing the importance of this level in the past, right? Multiple touches of this level, and very important level that it was, right? 100 SMA, something I talk about all the time, those daily SMAs, right? That was something that definitely fueled the decision. And on top of that, the 50% retracement on the Fibonacci's from the swing low to swing high, absolutely another thing that sort of gave me some extra confidence. Now, that was the number one. The number two was the semiconductors. And I was very intrigued with the SMH pulling back, and I was very intrigued by how the semiconductors were being viewed in the short term. Semiconductors seemed to start to be the sector that everyone hated, right? A lot of downside on NVIDIA, a lot of downside on a lot of semis, and a lot of drama on things like SMCI, and semi started to get that sort of downside move that I wanted to look to see if there was a contrarian trade on. So NVIDIA, over the last few trading days, very nicely holding above this 101.50 level. You guys can see right here that 101.50 hold. That is, if we go to the daily chart, that is this major level right here at 101.50. Now, not only NVIDIA was interesting, but it was the SMH. And so the SMH right here, you guys can see, the last time the SMH came down to this general zone around 200 to 206, we had holds here, we had holds here, we had holds here, and we started to come down towards that level again. Now, this time around, what I used in this situation was that 200 daily moving average. You can see the last time the SMH came down to the 200 daily moving average right here, we had a very aggressive push to the upside. And so I started to see the SMH holding that 200 SMA, and I figured, hey, if that SMH starts to hold that 200 and that S&P 500 starts to hold 5,400, there might be something interesting here. And if that shorting that's been going on in the SMH starts to get squeezed out, right, there could be something very aggressive and a flight back into those semiconductors, which I believe just fuels the market more and more, right? A strong semiconductor sector is going to push the NASDAQ higher. It's going to push the entire market higher. And so I was very interested in that SMH. And if you guys see right here, I'll go to my swing trades in the group. This was a trade that we took, right? You can see right here, SMH, October 18, 230 calls, willing to hold this over 213.50, major 200 daily moving average here, right? This was that analysis that I was doing. So this is back on the 9th. This is 2 days ago where I entered this trade, right? That idea, I started to formulate it, started to dip my toes in that idea. So that, along with that ES analysis, really got me interested in that bigger picture trade. Now, let's go and pull up E-Trade and go through the statistics of the trade. And then after we do that, we'll dive down into the short term and talk about what happened just today. All right, guys, so this trade was in E-Trade. E-Trade is an account that I hold a lot of my cash in. I hold VMFXX. You guys have seen me talk about this account in the past. This is a money market mutual fund. This is where I hold these NVIDIA 100 calls that I plan to exercise those into 400 shares. I continue to hold those. This is also where I continue to hold a next Monday 5,500 call on SPX, which is up about 133%, $104,000 alone. But this is not even including today's trade. This is, if I go to gains and losses and we go to today's date, which is right here, I'll go ahead and move this around. You can see that's there. I'll go to that, right? I'll move this around, whatever you guys want to see. There's that, right? You can see right there. And then I will go into this today, right there. And this is today. So this is the trade today. This is an SPX. This is a 5450 call. This costed me $23,000, and the net gain was $101,000. So between this trade and between the trade that I still hold, overall on SPX today, it was over $200,000. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go here to Power E-Trade, which is where I like to see this. I think you see this a little bit better in Power E-Trade. And here it is right here. So Power E-Trade, which I think is just a little bit of a cleaner platform to review this with you guys. We can go ahead and look at my entries and exits here. So here are my entries and exits. You can see right here today, on 9/11, 11:60, right at 11:60, I bought the 5450 calls at 11:38. I bought them for $11.60. I bought 20 of them. Now, the next was right here. This is this trade right here, and this trade right here, this trade, and this trade. This one was an add, right, into that next week contract. So the reds are together and the greens are together. So right here, you guys can see was my first entry, 20 at 11.60, the 5450s. I sold 15 of them at 52, which is about a 5x there, 400-ish% there. And then I sold 5 more, the last 5 at 91. So from 11 to 91 is really what I rode these out. And that was the trade from today. That was the big kahuna. And this is right here. You can see this is what I continue to hold. That is that next week 5,500 call that is currently up about $104,000. So that's so that is the statistics. That's the right in my broker for everything for you to see right there. You can see the time is moving. This is not photoshopped. This is exactly as it should be. So that's that on E-Trade. Let me go ahead and now pull up my trade here in TradeZella so we can actually look at this a little bit more in detail. And you guys can see I put about $23,000 in it, made about net 435%, $101,000. And if I go to the running P&L, you can see I was never in drawdown in this thing, which was absolutely beautiful. You guys can see pretty much from my entry to my exits, this was green the entire time, and I was staying confident. And we're going to dive deeper into a little bit more because I know the question is going to be, how did you hold and how did you stay confident in this trade? So let's now jump into these charts, jump into the short term, and talk about what happened today, right, that made me so confident. So, number one, 5,400. I built a game plan. I knew that there was holds there. I knew the demand was there. We've talked about that already. This was something I was very confident in. Whether you like it or not, whether I was right or wrong, I was longing this level. I do not care what others are thinking. This was a level I was longing, okay? And that was what I was convinced and convicted to do. And so I did it, and I knew that if I started to see that bullish action come in, I did not want to sell myself short here. I wanted to maintain, I wanted to hold, and I wanted to let this play out. So when I bought that, right, and I started to let that grind, I knew from the moment I entered, I said, don't put too much size in this to where you're going to get scared. Put the amount that you're going to be comfortable to let this thing sit, and let's see what happens off 5,400 today. That was exactly what I said in my head to myself. I said, 20K, that's comfortable. Let it be. Maybe you'll lose 10K if you're wrong, right? If this thing fails back down, it goes down 50%, cut it for 10K, you lose 10K, you move on. But do not sell yourself short because of the amount that you put in this trade. Do not get scared. Do not put too much to where you start to panic. This is something that I had to actually scale down before I entered. Right before I entered this trade, guys, I was going to put 50,000 in this trade, and I went ahead and I put 20 because I said, wait a second. Let me make sure that I'm comfy. Let me make sure that I'm not going to panic on any type of candle, any kind of 2-minute, 1-minute candle. I want to see this out. So put an amount that you're nice and comfortable in this trade. Again, guys, I want to reiterate, I have not gotten to the point of putting $20,000 in a trade overnight. I have been trading for now 11 years. So this is not an overnight success. I want to make sure that if you're a newer trader and you're watching this, do not expect the same type of confidence with the $20,000 trade amount. You need to start small and you need to build up to where I am. So this is maybe a $1,000 trade, a $1,500 trade, a $500 trade. Maybe that's where you're at, where you can really just say, hey, I'm going to hold this. I don't care if I lose 500. I don't care if I lose half of this. I'm comfortable, right? And that was required today to get to where I was, right? To hold this contract from 11 to 91, you have to be comfortable the entire time. You cannot be panicked on every minute of the action. So I had to make sure that I was getting in with proper size, that I stayed comfortable. I cannot stress the importance of that in this type of trade. This is a must, because if I was panicking, I would have exited and I would not have made as much as I did. So important. So on top of that 5,400, what else was stepping up? QQQ, 450. If you've been riding with me, if you've been following my analysis, if you've watched anything that I've provided over the last few weeks, you know that this red level has been on our charts all week. 450, 450, and 450. Today, we traded lower into that 450 level, and we started to see it step up. If you go to the Discord where I posted the swing trade on the Qs today, this was a trade that we're in as well. Right here, I said, I threw in a baby QQQ long for Friday expiration, 450 call in the money. Looking to see if this hold of 450 results in a squeeze higher. Possible overexcitement on the bear side and a strong defense of the 5,400 and 450 QQQ. Also strong holds of the 200 daily moving average on the NASDAQ futures. I also told to the group that if we get over 455, that we could see a squeeze back to the upside over 455. So that QQQ made me very confident to try that long again at 450. This is the same long that has been setting up off of 450 all week, that we started to see on Monday, we started to see on Tuesday, and we saw it again today. Now, the 455 level, I want to go ahead and break that down momentarily. I'm going to show you why I was interested in 455 today. So right here, you guys can see, this is the 2-minute chart of today's action on the QQQ. At 455 on the QQQ, we had a very clear inverse head and shoulder neckline. Right here, you can see we had this inverse head and shoulder neckline. You see that right there? We had that inverse head and shoulder. I'm going to make that yellow, actually. We had this, 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 and this. And I said to the group, hey, if we get over this 455, this is an inverse head and shoulder neckline right here, right? You can see right there. And if we do get back above that, that we could start to see that squeeze come in. And after seeing that, guys, that is really where this excitement started to come in, after getting over that 455, when the sellers down here started to get trapped, right? And they started to get squeezed out of their position at 455. The other thing that was lining up with my analysis was the NASDAQ 18,550 level. This was the exact level, guys, that I made a trade on Monday, and where the drama was ensuing, that people were not understanding why I was longing this 200 SMA, right? You probably remember that video where I was sitting in some drawdown. You can go ahead and watch that video. I just posted it recently, We talked about that drawdown trade. That was right here, right? I was trying to long the 200 SMA, which worked yesterday, and it worked again today. The 18,550 level and the 200 SMA, perfect. Absolutely perfect. The last thing that I want to talk about today, guys, on the SPY, you guys can see right here, I'm going to go to the 4-hour chart. I'm going to go to just the daily levels, and this was the 540 level. So 540 on the SPY was this major spot, and that 100 SMA, and that 540 level today was a thing of pure beauty. When I saw that 540 step in, when I saw that ES step in down there at 5,400, when I saw that QQQ step in down there at 450, and when I saw that NASDAQ step in at that 18,550 200 SMA, I said, we're long, we're holding, we're comfortable, we're looking for that reversal trade post CPI off of key demand, and that is how I get to where I am today. If you guys realize for a second and you just sort of think about this trade, this is nothing different that I do on a daily basis. This is the exact same type of supply and demand trading that I talk about on this channel every single day, both in videos and the live streams. The free live streams every morning at 8 a.m. This information is not needed. You do not need to join my Discord for this type of information. I'd love for you to trade live with me. I'd love for you to see me do this live. I'd love for you to get that additional information and education that I provide. But simply coming to the morning live streams, putting in the work, and watching these levels on a daily basis, I promise you can find these same types of trades. And the thing that's going to turn you profitable is not the technical analysis. The thing that is going to make you profitable is being confident, being comfortable, and trusting your analysis. That right there is the secret sauce that so many people overlook. You need to trust what you are looking at. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content I provide. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I better see you on the live stream tomorrow. Peace out.